If you're struggling with getting good cuticle lines when dipping your nails, this one's going to be for you. What's up, nail crew? It's Nicole, your fellow nail obsessed DIYer. Today it is all about how to get the perfect cuticle line, or pretty darn close to it. And it's going to start first with the application. The very first thing that you want to do when you're applying your dip powders is you want to wipe a majority of the liquid off on the inside of your brush. When you put a lot of liquid onto your nails, that's going to end up flooding your cuticles and your sidewalls. So right there, that is how you start on the first step towards getting nice cuticle lines, is not flooding your cuticles with a ton of liquid. That's something that takes a bit of practice. I know when I first started, I struggled to figure out what the right amount was to get onto my nails, and like if I was wiping too much off the brush and then not having enough on the brush when I'd actually apply it to my nails. So when you're wiping off the brush, you want to start at least with wiping off one side of the brush on the inside of the bottle and see how much liquid then goes onto your nail. And if there's some that's flooding into your cuticles and your sidewalls, then you know you can wipe off a little bit more. And it also is going to depend on your nail length as well. Something else that really helps to make sure that you're not flooding your cuticles is you want to start about 3/4 of the way up your nail and then set the brush down and then push it back towards your cuticles. So if you start right at your cuticles, you tend to flood it. You can see on my nails that I don't start right at my cuticles. I start back a little bit and then push the brush back towards them. Now for this mani, I'm only doing 2 dips of each color because I have builder gel down as a base. If you don't have builder gel down as a base, I would recommend doing 1 to 2 dips of clear dip powder down. This is called building your apex. The first dip's going to be about halfway down your nail and only be a little strip, and then the second dip's going to be about 3/4 the way down and cover a bit more of your nail, 3/4 the way back towards your cuticles, and then you do your dips like I'm doing now. We're going to go through it in another video and I will show you exactly how to build an apex, because today we are focusing on just doing perfect cuticles. So when you're doing the dips that are near your cuticles like I'm doing now, this would be if you don't have builder gel on as a base and you had clear dip powder on as a base, these would be like your 3rd and 4th dips. And anytime I dip my nails close to my cuticles, I take a Stabby stick or an orange wood stick and trace around them. So you saw after each dip, after I've poured the powder on, I trace around the edges to make sure that there's nothing stuck on my cuticles before I would even let it dry. And doing that's going to make sure that you are not getting any product stuck on your skin as much as you possibly can. Now, some people like to use the really pointy end of the Stabby stick or the cuticle tool, but you can also use the end that looks like a cuticle pusher and trace around. Whatever you feel more comfortable with, whatever you determine that like feels the best for your nails to go around, that's what I would recommend using. Another step to getting beautiful cuticle lines is pouring your powders over. I know you see a lot of people dip their nails into the jars when they're dipping their nails. I am not a big fan of that. To be honest, I think it does look cool. It looks like very aesthetic, but that's not what I'm going for here, okay? I'm not going for the aesthetics. I've said this in other videos. I am going for what helps you guys learn the best you possibly can to do your nails at home. So if it doesn't look aesthetically pleasing to pour the powders over, you know what? That's okay, because I'm going to teach you the way that works the best to get the nicest nails on your own without having to do a lot of work. So you can see me pour it over, and then I typically pour it over once, tap it off, and then pour it over again, and then go around my cuticles. And I do not brush off any excess powder until that layer's dried. So depending on the liquids that you're using, some dry really fast, some dry slower, some are medium time. The ones that I'm using are a medium dry time. So when I was applying the liquids, I have time to pour the powder over, tap it off, trace around my cuticles, and then I start on my next nail. I do dip my next nail before I even go and brush off any excess powder. You could dip all 5 nails and then go back to the first nail and brush off the powder. Just make sure that you're not brushing off when the powder is still wet. That's going to totally mess up your beautifully smooth, even layer that you just did. And now I'm going in and doing some really cute little foils to add like this little pop of design. If you want something else added to your nail that just makes it like look a little bit, you know, more visually appealing, Foils are a great option. These are just a pack that I grabbed off Amazon. I think there was copper, silver, and gold foils. I grabbed the gold and thought this would look really cute on these two fingers. This was for a collab mani I did with OG. And the green is called You Did Not Go Over the Wall. The yellow is called I Don't Speak Dipshit. If you watch Yellowstone, you know exactly what that is. And the middle nail, it's like a reddish brown. That is called Juice. So once I finish applying all my dip powders onto all my nails, I've brushed off all my excess. On each layer, I've finished my layers. Then I go in and I add clear dip powder over all of them. I do that no matter what color I'm using, whether it's solid, shimmers, flakes, foils, whatever. I always go in with my last layer of clear. That is to protect them. And I feel like it really just evens everything out. And then when you buff and shape, you can get beautifully even nails, which again, that's going to help you when you're working on your cuticle lines. But all clear dip powders are not created equal. So make sure that you use a clear powder that is truly crystal clear. Always brush off all the excess powder before applying your activator. The activator is the step that you're going to do next. That's what I'm applying now. And that hardens the dip. So once your dip is hardened, some activators take about a minute and some take like 5+ minutes. You can tap on your nails to make sure that they're hardened before you go in and do your filing and shaping. Now, I like to first start out with this flexible file. This one is from OG Dip Powder. It's basically like a big giant buffing block. And if you're like me and you have large hands or you're just kind of clumsy and the little buffing blocks don't work, a flexible file like this is a great option because you can also get really close to your cuticles. I run the buffing block over every single nail. I'm buffing the sides downwards. So I take the file and I buff downwards so I get that beautiful C curve. And then I go around my cuticles with the buffing block as well because it's gentle and it's not like a file. So you can get closer to your cuticles without cutting them. Then I like to just check my nails with a glass cuticle pusher. If you're not comfortable using an e-file, the glass cuticle pusher is a really great option to get any excess dip powder that was stuck on your cuticles to get that off without having to use an e-file. But I am going to show you how I use the e-file because that is my secret to really getting the clean cuticle lines. So once I'm done buffing and my nails are really smooth and they're smoothed down towards the sides of my fingers, then I go through with a hand file and I fix up all my shaping because whenever you're dipping your nails, it adds a little bit of bulk. So I like to go and what I call like crisp up my shaping. Then I go in with my e-file. And the e-file is where I truly get my best cuticle lines because if my dip was a little bit uneven when I was applying it, this is how I go in and I get that beautifully perfect cuticle line that everybody is looking for. My absolute favorite bit to use when I'm doing my cuticle lines is the Pana Extra Fine bit that I'm using right here. Now this one is super sharp. And you have to be really, really careful when you're using it. I only use it at 3,000 to 4,000 RPMs. Anything above that and you can cut your skin. And let me tell you, this extra fine bit will slice into your skin. So you have to be really, really careful. Now, if you are not comfortable using a bit like this, you can also use a 5-in-1 bit. I use the Pana 5-in-1 carbide bit. And that one is almost looking like a little mini tornado and it's a little bit softer around the edges. So if you accidentally tap your skin with it, you're not going to cut yourself. I'll make sure I link both of those in the description for anybody who, is comfortable one way or another, whichever one you want to use. But this is really my biggest secret that I do not keep secret because I don't believe in gatekeeping. That gives you those gorgeous cuticle lines. If you're still struggling with your basic dip application and you're not even ready to think about how to perfect your cuticles, make sure you check out the link in the first pinned comment. It is going to be a link to my Dip Nails 101 guide. It is the ultimate guide to dipping your nails at home from prep to application to removal. It's over 45 pages of everything you need, all the tips and tricks that I've gotten over the past 4 years so that you don't have to look in a million places. You have one place to look for every bit of information that you can print out and look at over and over. Now we're going to do the top coating on this mani, and once I finish my filing, shaping, cleaning up of my cuticles, then I spray my nails with isopropyl alcohol and wipe that off with a lint-free wipe or a clean paper towel. Now I'm going to go in and top coat, and when I'm using the OG dip liquids, you do heavy activator on 5 nails. You count to 10 when you get to your pinky, and then go back to the first nail that you activated, which would be your thumb, and you do 2 to 3 quick strokes, floating the top coat over it. And you do that for each nail. And I like to cap my edges because I never know how long I'm going to wear my mayonnaise. So especially if you're somebody who likes to wear your mayonnaise for a while, make sure you cap those edges. And then as soon as you get to your pinky, you go right back to your thumb for the second layer, and you can be a little bit more detailed with that. Do, like 3 to 4 strokes, but I still float that layer over as well. It really helps me not to contaminate my brushes, and I do that regardless of the brand that I'm using. For dip top coat, you always want to follow the instructions of whatever brand you're using. If you're ready to learn more easy nail designs that you can do without gels, make sure you check out my next video. Thanks so much for joining me today, nail crew.